Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on Thursday, October 21st. Galaxy getting ready for a Saturday game against FC Dallas, looking for 9 points in the week for the first time this year. LA Galaxy getting back-to-back wins over the Portland Timbers and the Houston Dynamo. We're going to talk about that Houston game and why it was such a great game. Doesn't mean the Galaxy played great, but it was a great game. Allowed the Galaxy to do something they have not been able to do all year, so we're going to talk about that. Get you updated on MLS salaries, just basically going over some stuff, some league-wide stuff, some team stuff for the LA Galaxy. And then, of course, getting you ready for that FC Dallas game as well. I'm sure there'll be some other side tracks as we get rocking and rolling in this one. But to help me do all of the fun stuff, he's back, he's here, he's wearing Dodger gear. It's Mr. Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. Eric, how's it going, buddy?
It's going all right. That was a nice little turn of phrase that you had there. He's nice, he's here. He's filling in for Mike McGee. He's wearing his Dodger gear. If you're not on the live, if you're not in the YouTube chat, you miss those little intros that Josh spices it up with. So, fun times. Again, I am wearing my Dodger gear, so I think things are in hand right now. Right now, we're in the bottom of the seventh, 7-2 lead. So I don't think we're going to have the drama like we had last time, where we were following intently, right? For a big finish. I think we're safe in hand. I'm sure the chat will keep us abreast of what's going on, but I think that's safe to say the Dodgers are still alive in the series.
Okay, that's good. That's good. We'll, keep the faith, that type of thing. If you notice, my notes actually say that Josh is filling in for Bruce Arena, and Eric is filling in for Mike McGee. And whenever I said that, I said I would totally listen to that podcast. Yeah. By the way, I am here for that show. So I am. It was funny, just like, and I always imagine that if somebody actually read that and didn't know, they would be like, "Oh, now I'm disappointed. Who are these guys compared to to Bruce and Mike?"
Yeah, we're a big drop off after if you have Bruce and Mike as potential hosts. Yeah, we're a disappointment.
We talk all the time about the drop off on the bench, Eric. Whenever you have the starters come in, and what's your drop off? In this case, it goes off a 300-foot cliff. We were somewhere down at the beach, and Bruce and Mike are up, kissing Everest up top there. So I think that's the only way to say that.
Yeah, we're going first team, and then U12 Academy boys. That's where we land. So
I think the U12s could probably handle us
I was gonna
easily.
Say that's almost that's disrespectful to the U12s, which is not what I meant to do there.
LA Galaxy getting a 3-0 win. Eric, listen, after the 9-game winless streak, getting a win against Portland, which was hard fought, maybe a little lucky, and certainly. And I will say similar things about the Houston game, which there was some luck involved in this, but also if you're working hard and you're generating chances, these luck things that didn't go the Galaxy's way will go your way. Clear penalty kick that sort of got everything started. It was funny. Sacha Kljestan ended the game with a penalty kick against Portland that Efrain Alvarez drew. Sacha Kljestan sort of quote unquote started the game game with a penalty kick that got the LA Galaxy rolling after Kevin Cabral got fouled in the box. Again, very clear penalty. No, I actually listened to the Dallas feed and the Dallas highlights, or the Houston feed. All those Texas teams are the same. All eliminated from the playoffs, every single one of them. So there were a lot of secession jokes after I made that comment. By the way, I enjoyed all of that. But it was clear. I was listening to the Houston commentators, and they were sort of like, "Oh, I don't know about that. It looks pretty soft." And they saw the replay, they're like, "No, that's a penalty. Yeah, that's pretty hard to miss that one." So.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those. The argument is, you get when you get the ball, but you can't get the ball and go cleats up and get ankle and then still claim that I got the ball. Well, sure, you got a lot of other things too. So, yeah, I could see the argument if you're a Houston homer, but it was pretty clear to me as well.
A 3-0 win, the most goals the Galaxy have scored since their 3-3 draw with LAFC. The only time the Galaxy have scored more goals was against Portland in that 4-1 victory. I think the Portland game up until this point, that 4-1 victory over Portland, was one of the quote-unquote easiest games the Galaxy have had. I would say that this was very similar to that. The Galaxy had to work very hard in the first half. They had to do all the things. They had to get in positions. They had to be where they needed to be. But getting 2 goals in that first half, Efrain Alvarez, and we'll talk about a whole bunch of things, but Efrain had, a great, I'd say 60, 70 minutes, and then give him the rest of it because he battled and did a whole bunch of things. To put him there, Kevin Cabral gets the third. I'll talk about how he trolled every single one of you on that particular goal as well. There was the proposal during the Kevin Cabral goal. I don't know if everybody's seen that. It's so
you have
beautiful.
to look that up. Oh, it's perfect.
It was so much fun. I don't have the video. I should have grabbed it and should have done, but I just say it's out there. The Galaxy tweeted it out, like a whole bunch of people tweeted it out, and it's just there's so many things that were wrong with that particular. Go over the list of things that are wrong with that proposal, Eric.
So one, it's a Wednesday night,
right?
So if you're going to propose midweek MLS. There's already some red flags being raised here. Then you had the whole half. So the Houston is losing. You had an entire half to pick your moment, and you waited until the game kicked off and started. Then the Galaxy are on the attack, and then that's the moment that you choose to make it happen. And then someone's filming it, trying to capture the sweet moment, and then all of a sudden the attention turns and Kevin Cabral's there and just sucks the air out of the crowd. I mean, what a way to spoil the moment. It was just everything was wrong with that proposal. So thoughts and prayers to whoever that couple is, because I feel like they're doomed.
It feels like they're sailing into a headwind on this one to start. I mean, first of all, the fact that you're proposing at a Houston Dynamo game, I think already sort of. By the way. I don't want to be that disrespectful, but you're right. Yeah, okay, but you had all year to do it, but you waited until they got eliminated from the playoffs in order to. Waited. Yes.
Counterpoint: you waited till the LA Galaxy were in town. You needed a little,
star power,
X factor, a little spice. Yeah.
Joe in the chat room says, "Who proposes at a soccer game, especially a last place team? Like, do you get a ring that has the wooden spoon on it if somehow Houston drops all the way down? I mean, where? Listen, there are diehards for every team. I get it, 100%. Exactly. It's just I think we need to think about the planning on this one. And by the way, poor her, because she didn't have anything to do with that timing. That's him, and I don't know if that's is it like rain on a wedding day? If you propose while the opposing team is scoring a goal, it's good luck.
Sure, that just became an adage as of Wednesday.
Can I say that was maybe the most exciting part of that game? Because there were some good things. It was a very good game, but it was a very controlled game from the Galaxy, which we haven't seen. But that was, to me, I think the best thing that came out of this whole game.
Absolutely.
From an observer point, there are tons of good things for the Galaxy that come out of this game. Let's talk about the lineup here real quick, just in case you were living under a rock somewhere. Oh, look, the LA Galaxy have a 4-4-2 again. I don't know.
4-4-2.
It's a fake 4-4-2. It's not a 4-4-2. I complained about this on Monday. I'm going to complain about it again. They're just setting things up to be wrong, and I don't understand it. It's like, what, you think Houston's fooled that Kevin Cabral's going to be out there? Listen, he was up on that front line like he always is as a winger, which is where he plays. He makes his runs from a little bit deeper. I did think that there was a lot of interesting movement in this where Cabral would go high and Chicha would pull underneath. And by the way, Chicha's all of a sudden Mr. Assist, just trying to get the ball to everybody, and he could have had maybe 3 assists. He told me after the game, I was trying to be really careful with my question, Eric, because, Javier is very much I don't care if I score guy. right? And I sort of wanted
Yes.
him to get the whole, hey, but you're getting
We've had this.
yeah, but you're getting really close, Javi. I mean, I know you're a team guy. I know you want the whole day. He goes, I don't worry about it because I almost got 3 assists tonight. Like, really, when you look at it, the whole day, I'm like, okay. I just, in a way, I sit there and say, could he just be like a little ticked off that he hasn't scored? Just like just a little. What do you think?
To bring it back to Ted Lasso, as we always do, if you haven't caught up on season 2, it's a mild spoiler, but I don't think it
at this
takes away
point
too
nobody
much.
has an excuse.
At this point. So Jamie Tart, has become more of a team player, and they notice, you're not a jerk anymore. You're not an a-hole. You kind of need to be an a-hole. And I go back to Zlatan. Zlatan was maybe a little too far in the other direction.
Full bore. Yes.
He was going to get his. Zlatan was going to get his. And so I think I'm with you. I'd like to see a little more of that bite and that hunger. A player that it kind of reminds me of is Giassi Zardes. Giassi Zardes, I'm a Giassi Zardes stan. I love the guy, but I just wish he had like a little bit of that killer instinct, and that's to no fault of his own. He's, you can tell he's like a great dude, great dad, just a like awesome guy, a good guy. And so that probably isn't part of his personality. So it's not going to be part of his game. So I think Javier is probably similar. So Javier doesn't have that,
it's not there.
that mean streak, that angry side, and and that's okay. But I'm with you. We've had this conversation where any questions for Javier, and I'm like, well, maybe this, and you're like, well, I know exactly how that answer is going to go. So you're right. He's never going to put it on himself and say that he wants to get the records, and so he's going to be a team guy first, which is great. But you're right. It would be nice to see just a little bit of that. A little bit of selfishness is in a striker. That's a good trait to have.
Yeah, it's not bad. By the way, the chat room is cracking me up with their marriage proposal talks. LA Native says, if she goes with you to a midweek MLS match, she might be the one. That is a very true statement.
That's a fair point.
That is, and we missed that. So thank you for bringing that. Diego says, when they have a kid, they should call it Kevin now, which is just like, and then Patrick,
with a French accent though. You need an accent over the I. Yeah.
Kevin. So is that Patrick says, well, obviously, the reason there was a midweek Dynamo game is he couldn't afford the Astros tickets, which, hey, those are expensive right now, so I understand.
It's ALCS, yeah, fair enough.
And also, this is our son, Cabral.
Good times. It really had it all. It was the video that had everything.
I think we should just spend the rest of the podcast talking about the proposal, quite honestly, because it was way better than that. And by the way, I wish them all the luck. There's no ill will in this. It's just funny. It is funny.
It's funny, yeah.
Hey,
and they've got a great story.
They absolutely. I proposed, and then the Galaxy scored, and that's why we got divorced 3 years later. I think that was over the line. Chicharito up top playing there. Kevin Cabral in there. Sebastian Lletget, Sacha Kljestan. So Vanney doing more rotating than I actually thought he was going to do. I thought Lletget made sense just because Victor Vasquez. You knew he played so many minutes in the game against Portland, and you're like, it's tough for him to sort of do it, and maybe, they can bring him on in the second half. And if you listen to Nikki K, she even talked about Raveloson and possibly Victor Vasquez being available in that second half. And the bottom line is that when you look at this with Kljestan starting, and by the way, the guy who apparently is going to take this team all the way to the playoffs now is Sacha Kljestan, who played 90 full minutes in this game, just balled out of his mind. I don't know how to explain this to people who don't understand Sacha Kljestan, but the guy was getting ragged on 2 weeks ago, Eric, whenever he was talking and saying, we're fine, I'm not worried about this team, the whole deal. Well, he's not worried because he's going to play now, and now he's going to he's turned it up to 10. He's decided that he's already in playoff mode. You can see he's like, no, I will leave it all out there, do not care.
Well, speaking of being selfish and getting yours, I will tell you that 2 weeks ago, there was a guy who said, who hasn't been getting enough play is Sacha Kljestan, because when he's been on the field, he's been excellent this season, and he's been better than he was last season. So to see him get the accolades and to get the love that he's getting, I made a Photoshop that kind of went wild, and some players were sharing with the, son Kljestan, to see him getting that recognition, it's pretty incredible because, he's just quietly doing his job, being having that leadership in the locker room, not making a lot of noise, just being that presence when he was called upon. He did his job. He didn't make mistakes when he was in the game. So now, when the pressure is on and they needed that special spark, he's the one who's provided it. And so when it all lines up and it's the right guy who it happens to, it's something's in the air. Something magical's in the air, and Kljestan just seems to be the right guy to kind of be pushing that ship in that direction.
By the way, before we go with the rest of the lineup, do we believe Sasha's lore here that he picks the penalty kicks in the morning? Does he ask his kids which way he should go in the morning, and then that's just it? Because how could anybody know what his kids are going to pick, right? It's not his mind. The kids are. I mean, is he the news sort of? Do we believe any of this? I feel like it's growing into a story that is not true, but it feels very true.
First of all, how dare you?
Yes.
And second of all, as a man who loves his superstitions, yeah, I totally believe it. When it works one time, that's all. It only has to work one time. And so as long as you keep that going, then you should be good to go. And I think we mentioned it when we were doing our Twitter Spaces yesterday. But with that penalty kick being. He started the game. He technically didn't start the game, but the penalty kick being his first action since the last penalty kick, that's a nerve-wracking thing, because the goalkeeper knows you scored a penalty in the last game. He knows the direction you went into that game. So there's a lot of mind games at play and a lot of nerve. That a lot of players. There's a mental game to taking penalties. It's not as easy as it looks, and I could tell you that from experience. And so when the keeper knows where you're going to go.
You've taken a professional penalty kick goal. Is this? Are we extending our knowledge a little bit?
I was going to see if you were going to call me out on that, but yeah, what's our favorite thing to do? Compare ourselves to professional athletes.
Of course.
But someone who's gotten in their own head about the direction you're going to go to the penalty. That's where I was going with it. But should he have gone the other direction? To keep that nerve, still went in the same direction and did his job. I think his one against Portland was better taken.
Yes.
But at the same time, it was a decision, and he decided I'm gonna stick to it. And so that's not as easy as I think people may realize.
Remember, Chicharito was only 4 goals, and I haven't looked at the scoring since then, but he was only 4 goals away from that top with Ola Kamara. I haven't seen if Kamara scored or if it's gotten any bigger or anything like that. I didn't pay attention. But the thing here is that Chicha doesn't take penalty kicks anymore because he's not great at them. And that's fine.
The mental piece to it. Yeah,
that's fine. Listen, do not make somebody take a penalty kick that is not good at them. Right? That's the worst thing you could do, because there's a thing in here. You have to believe in yourself. You have to know. And by the way, if you miss or you get stopped, it has to not bother you. Those are things that if you miss the goal completely, it can bother you. I imagine Landon Donovan still thinks about 2009 every other week. That's what I would do. I still think about 2009 every other week. So it's one of those. So he does that. But if Chicha was taking these penalty kicks, he would be up near that top as well. Like if he could score them, there's a bunch of ifs in there. But Ola Kamara, I know, does take penalty kicks for DC, is getting those penalty kicks. So whenever you're looking at the non-penalty kick goals, Chicharito is one of the leaders in Major League Soccer on the non-penalty kick goals. So just sort of keep that in mind as you're watching all this stuff go down. And the final piece of this lineup that we really haven't touched on yet, Hamalainen on the left back, Julian Araujo on the right back. I think that's going to stay very similar here on out. Yeah. I just don't know if Villafana is going to be back in time and going to feel comfortable enough coming in. But it's about the guys in the middle. The game against Houston was the best defensive performance outside of that Portland game. And listen, I think the Portland game was a better defensive performance for the Galaxy, and they got scored on.
That's fair. I can see that.
But I will say this, that the Galaxy's defensive performance against Houston was very solid, was a very good game. And the guy who's back there, who's making everybody, especially me, eat crow about him, always liked him, just didn't know if he was going to be the guy. Well, he's the guy. As I said, I don't think Greg Vanney is changing this. Nick DePuy back there with Derek Williams. Yeah. And I think Derek Williams coming back is a huge recipe piece to why Nick DePuy is also very good. I think maybe, and I don't want to say it too loud because I'm afraid I'm going to scare it.
Yeah, keep your voice down.
But they feel complementary to each other. Derek Williams likes to wander a little bit away from his line sometimes and go out and be a little more aggressive. And Nick DePuy has been in the right positions. Greg Vanney, after the game, says Nick was in the right spots every time last night. Sasha Kljestan gave him a shout out after the game as well, whenever he was talking to Spectrum and said, Nick DePuy has been outstanding for them in the last 2 games, right? And so, I think you have to look at this and say the Galaxy may have something with this defense. And I've seen a lot of defenses sort of work more and more towards sort of the goals the Galaxy are giving up, right? I mean, the Galaxy do not have a great defense, but if you're looking at sort of the trend in which they're going, they're trending in a very nice direction right now. I think you have to be pretty pumped up about it.
Yeah, especially when you look back at that winless streak, and what was one of the main missing ingredients? It was Derek Williams. So with Williams now back, I think he's been outstanding the last couple games. And then DePuy, right next to him, like you said, they're complementary pieces. And when we look back to the beginning of the season and all of the different permutations of which defense is going to be the best defense, I did not have Derek Williams and Nick DePuy on my bingo card as the two that are going to be taking us, into the postseason. But based on the lineup that Vanney has put out there, we talked about, he needs to kind of pick what's his starting lineup, who are his go-to players. And I think you can kind of read between the lines with some of the guys who were maybe getting some minutes at the beginning of the season, but now they're spending some time at G2, the guys who are in the regular rotation. I think Vanney has his guys. He knows who his best 11 is. And I think if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think you keep Williams and DePuy in there. And even with Villafania, I know we like Villafania, but Hamalainen's been doing fine. And so again, why mess up the chemistry? Keep things going. I think this is the backline that the Galaxy are going to ride with, because it seems to be working. And I know it's Houston, and I know they were, especially after the own goal, they were demoralized.
They were done.
But they also had feisty moments, and,
right.
and the defense had to come up big. And Bond also deserving of team of the week. He came up when he was called upon. So he's also another big part of that. There was kind of that lull in the middle of the season. We thought, is Williams bad? Is Bond not the guy who we thought he was? And now we're started saying, oh, maybe they are. It's in there. That was just a bit of a slump, but the talent is showing that it is in there.
It's an interesting game. I was talking on Monday, and everybody kept shouting me down, telling me, no, this wasn't going to happen. I was saying that you didn't really know which Houston was going to show up, and everybody's like, oh, they're going to be pumped up. They just beat Seattle. I'm like, they got eliminated from the playoffs in that same day. So it could go either way for me, and I think that they're a fragile team because of that, right? And so whenever I was talking, it was really about, hey, if the LA Galaxy can sort of, get in there and get the first goal, and look, hey, getting the first goal, 12-2-2 now for the LA Galaxy whenever they score the first goal. It's a stupid thing to comment on all the time because it's a duh thing, but is so ridiculously important for the LA Galaxy. So important. Vancouver and Seattle.
And Portland.
Yeah, no, Vancouver and Seattle were the only games in which the Galaxy scored first but lost.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. So that was the time. They had 2 other draws in there as well, and I don't remember what they are off the top of my head, but that was the only times they did. Seattle, that was actually one of the better games the Galaxy played early on in the season, and they lost that game. And the Vancouver game, I don't remember. I think the Galaxy, it was in I think it was an RSL, or was that one at home?
Yeah, that was the one because they didn't play Vancouver in Vancouver. That was one where it was a late goal that ended up burying them. Did they draw that game? Here's where I was going when I said Portland. Vancouver at Portland yesterday. Portland had a 2-goal lead in the first half, and Vancouver came back and they bit them, and they beat them 3-2. And so I think when we were having our conversation with the Galaxy 2 up, I think the own goal demoralized Houston, and that was kind of the turning point. But there was still work to be done, and I think that's the important thing. Yes, it is, like you said, a bit of a duh thing. If you score the first goal, obviously you're going to have success, but at the same time, good teams close out games. So there are teams that can score those opening goals, but there are also teams that get whatever it is mentally that let down, or there's that lapse, or you don't keep the foot on the gas, and it all falls apart. So credit to them for holding it together in the second half, and the early second half goal also helped, because it's not only did you score the first goal, but you scored a goal very quickly in the second half to just basically kill the game off. I think at that point, I even tweeted out, game blouses. At that point, 3-0, they're eliminated from the playoffs. It was pretty much a done deal at that point. And even with Vanney's substitutions, it was pretty clear, the game he felt like the game was well in hand.
Chat room's asking me what I thought about Jonathan Dos Santos. I actually thought he had a very good game. I thought that he controlled the ball well. I thought that he controlled his space well. Between him and Sacha Kljestan, the midfield had bite and it had purpose. And the Galaxy did well to break out and find places. I mean, again, if you're looking for a man of the match and sort of in a couple of these things, Efrain Alvarez comes to mind. Actually, Kevin Cabral comes to mind. If you look at him drawing the penalty kick and also scoring a goal that really sort of put it together. I mean, Chicharito actually had a very good game. He put a couple good shots on goal. Again, they're just not finding the corners yet. I feel like it's coming, but it's not there. There were a bunch of really good performances, and especially, and I think that there should be some good focus on Efrain Alvarez and the combination he plays with Julian Araujo. They are so comfortable with each other. It's a very, it's a very fluid situation when they get with each other and they just sort of understand how it works. And they really, I mean, if you look at it, the Galaxy were very much one-sided, running a lot of things on the right-hand side through Araujo and through Efrain Alvarez.
They had that side all day long. They were really doing it. And then the nice thing about, we've also been critical of Jonathan Dos Santos, but I think when Julian Araujo pushes forward, the cover does, what Dos Santos is able to do, kind of cover defensively to allow him to do that. You have to give credit there as well.
I thought Nico was better on his defensive side of things as well. So Nico Hämäläinen, who I think is fine going forward, but certainly it's the backside on the, making sure he plays defense is usually the question mark. Thought he played fine. Here is the big takeaway from all of this, though. Okay, we can talk all about this however we want. The big takeaway is that this game is different than any other Galaxy game this season because it allowed Greg Vanney to think about Dallas before this game was over. And I actually talked to Greg about it afterwards. And he says, he goes, we hope it plays out that way. Basically, you can go watch the full thing over on our YouTube page, Corner of the Galaxy. It's up there as well. You can listen to the full press conference. But basically, he said, we hope it plays out that way. But what it allowed them to do was sub off guys like Julian Araujo, who was on a yellow card, right? And you're like, hey, we need to be careful with him. You don't want him suspended for the next game. Let's make sure we get him off. It allowed you to take Derek Williams off, who is just coming back from injury and has to play a ton of minutes and will absolutely be starting whenever they go against FC Dallas, right? So it allows them to do that. It allowed them not to play Victor Vasquez, who has a little bit of a, some soreness, some tenderness, and some areas, that type of thing. So he's doing, that. It allowed you not to have to play Ryan Raveloson, who, remember, was in Africa and traveling all over there, 18-hour flights coming back and doing a whole bunch of things. It allowed you to rest him there. It gave you Adam Saldana in the second half. Sacha Kljestan going 90, Efrain Alvarez going 90, O'Neal Fisher getting some time in there. You got to bring on Grandsir for Cabral in the 60th minute as well. I mean, there's just the fact is, and that the big goal here that allows you to do that is Cabral's, and the movement that happened on that goal is a goal that will be scored in MLS over and over again, right? The quick, rapid passing, Sebastian Lletget, Jonathan Dos Santos, Chicharito turns, looks one way, everybody sort of shifts that way for a second, and then he fires back the other direction to put Cabral in, and then Cabral with the world's best troll that I've ever seen, because I know everybody's yelling, shoot the ball, Cabral, shoot the ball, right? And he goes in there, and he just stops, and he watches the defender slide away, and then he takes it, and he fires into the near post corner. It was the type of goal he should score, and it showed a little confidence in him. I enjoyed it, so,
Well, I think he has that. He's done that to defenders before, made defenders look foolish. And I think the frustration with Cabral for me is that when he makes those runs, and he had one in the first half where Chicharito sprung him loose, and he didn't look like he was sprinting very hard. He just very casually, but the way his stride, he had the defender beat. He easily was able to maintain control and go into goal, and then he just kind of, weak-footed it into the goalkeeper. With that second goal, with the goal he actually scored, it was very similar. When he runs so smoothly and it's effortless, and he has that, he has the talent on the ball to make defenders look foolish and pull those cutbacks. So it's all there. And I think, to me, that's the frustration with Cabral. I know there are a lot of people, and when we talk about, salary and the DP slot, there's some frustrations with him, but I see it there. It's just, and that's what makes it frustrating, is that he can score these goals. He probably should have more goals than he has on the season. And I think that's the frustration point, because why can't he do this every game? Because it's there, and he showed it that he has it in this game. And it's just, so I think when you have a fan base that is frustrated with him, it's not because he's not good. Right. It's because he is good, and that you just need to see that full potential realized. So, I think there are some haters out there and some people who are frustrated with him, but saying that he's not good, or saying that, he's a wasted of a DP slot, maybe that's you can argue that, but at the same time, when it's on, you have to say that it's there. If this is the Kevin Cabral we can get every time, makes the defenders miss, easily blows by defenders, then this is the guy. This is the guy who's going to be worth the DP slot, who also is, giving them those young U23 slots as well.
U22.
Sure.
U23.
I knew I messed that up the second
U23 is also U22, so I mean it makes sense.
Dodgers 11-2.
Ooh, bottom of the eighth.
Things got out of hand.
That's good. I imagine that's good for the Dodgers. I don't think we stay on longer for
just
this.
got
No,
the
it's
update
fine.
there.
If we look at the shot map as well, just looking at the LA Galaxy, calm, composed, took their time, created chances. When they took chances, they were high probability chances. You look at Efrain Alvarez as sort of a high probability goal. That feels like it's going in regardless of whether or not somebody gets to it. And it was Valentin who knocked it into his own goal, but it's put in such a space. And also somebody pointed out Efrain used his right foot. That was a right-footed cross from that position, and it was like, hey, everything's good things happen whenever you use your other foot. And this comes from a guy who has absolutely only one foot, only right-sided, not left-sided. So if you're ever guarding me, I'm going to move it to my right foot. I would fall over if I tried to kick with my left foot.
There it is. Yeah, comparing ourselves to the pros.
I mean, but I think at least mine is accurate. At least mine is accurate. You're over there like, oh, whenever I took a PK in high school, it's the same as Sacha Kljestan. I'm kidding. I don't really care. I don't really care. But when you look at the shot selections that they had, they were dangerous shots. I mean, Chicharito had that full volley that came off the free kick that was beautifully taken.
That was a good one.
And if it goes anywhere but where he hits it, it goes in the goal. It doesn't even have to be like, if it's 6 inches a different way, it probably goes in because it was hit with a lot of venom, as they say. Mm-hmm. He full volley, so really good. So you look at that stuff, and that made me feel good. I think if you're looking at just how they're doing on the passing network as well, it's fairly well organized. You see how far up the pitch Julian Araujo gets on this stuff. And listen, he lived on that right-hand side along with, everybody else. Jonathan Dos Santos ended up checking into that side. Efrain Alvarez ended up checking into that side. They were running on that side and using the weak side, the left side, as sort of the relief valve on that. So they would try to move that ball from the right into the left or left center. It was a really good performance out of all that. And again, the fact that the Galaxy got to rest people is so monumental and so huge, because we look at this FC Dallas game, and before we really talk about it, FC Dallas didn't play over the last weekend. So their first game back was on Wednesday night. And it was a tough game for them. They had to struggle, and they ended up losing that game. They also ended up getting eliminated from the playoffs because of that loss. So
and it was also at home for them. It was a home game, so no travel.
No travel. So they got a weekend off. They got a midweek game, which fortunately they had to play, and they actually had to be a part of, because sometimes you get up early and you don't have to. I mean, the worst nightmare for Dallas is that the Galaxy would pull the game that they did, which basically allowed them to rest and set up their lineup for FC Dallas. So you can look at all that and how it is. This FC Dallas game is going to be a tricky one. So keep that in mind. The big takeaway, and certainly everybody was looking at it, is what the Galaxy are able to do with, the lineup. Now, that doesn't mean anything if you go out and lose the game, by the way. And there's 4 games left, Eric. Just 4 games left. So it's really important, and it's funny because I've been asking after every game, okay, there's 5 games left. How many points do you think you're going to get? Okay, there's 4 games left. How many points are you going to get? I haven't done the 4-1 yet, but it's funny to see wide ranges. I like the people who had at 5 games, they're like 15 points, man, 15 points. I'm getting, they're winning every single game. I'm like, hey, cool, yeah. I love it. And then the people who are like 1 point. I don't trust this team.
I was closer to that end. I think for the month of October, I predicted 5 points. I was expecting, some draws and then a loss to Portland and then maybe a draw away at Houston, because that's always a tricky game. So they've already exceeded that expectation. They're on 7 points for the month of October. So again, this can be a huge game, especially when you look at the conference standings, all bunched up. It's just kind of a bit of a cluster. So the more they can create that separation, and Portland leaving the door wide open.
I know this is I don't jump ahead. Just wait.
Okay.
Just wait. I want to get there in a second, but I want to get through Greg Vanney as well, who reached his 100th win in this one. I want to talk about that. Greg Vanney, 100 MLS wins. I sort of looked at what he did in Vancouver: 87 wins, 68 losses, 48 draws there. Overall, his win percentage the entire time he was with Toronto, and remember that team was horrible whenever. I mean, much like the LA Galaxy, they were horrible whenever he started. He has a winning percentage of .547. So not bad for Greg. If you look at his playoff, by the way, his playoff win percentage is like .875. Just want to say, just pointing.
That's impressive.
Just don't want to get ahead of myself too far, but Greg Vanney in the playoffs, you might think so. You might think it's going there. Greg was obviously a little deferential whenever we talked to him after the game. He was in a good mood, as you would expect everybody to be in a good mood, so it was fine. He talked and basically said, hey, 100 is great. And, he thanked all the coaches and everybody that he's worked with over the times. And he goes, and to have players go out there and execute your game plans 100 times is pretty impressive as well. He goes,
when you put it that way, right? That's impressive.
The whole thing, he goes, but really I'm hoping, win 102 or 103 or 101 or 102 is more important. Basically, he was talking about clinching a playoff spot, right? And so that's what he's like, oh, I don't need this. This is nothing. First of all, I don't think you get a plaque or anything. So it's not like there's you get something for this. It's just, you just passed a number on your way, and that's it. But it means something to him. You can see
there should be a plaque. There should be like a gold record or something, that they give, as a memento.
What should we give him? We could come up with an idea. Maybe we'll let the chat room think about what would you give Greg Vanney for 100 MLS wins.
I have the answer.
What is the answer?
It's a scarf, a golden scarf.
A golden scarf.
Yeah, because in Toronto he had his little scarf look. Is that too on the nose?
I don't know. Do you get it like it says 100 wins, and does he wear it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's decorative.
And
it's in a case. It's shadow boxed.
It's one of those. So he's never going to wear it. He's just going to hang it up on the wall. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So he'll put it down like somewhere because coaches
will be displayed in his office.
He doesn't have time to decorate. He doesn't have time to decorate
during the media calls. He'll have it in the background.
It'll just be hanging over his head. I don't know who would do such a thing to like put stuff in your background for calls and stuff. I don't know.
Or have lights going off in the background. The chat likes the lights.
I was going to say you're getting a lot of props for your lights, for your $20 lights, and I'm just I'm not jealous. I'm not jealous.
You're not hating.
No,
this speaker was way more than $20. I'm just using all of the enhanced features here, and I have to try to keep up with the Guesmans over here with all those lights. I have to have my own pony show over here.
You win again as is usual. Dinner with Cosmo. By the way, Phil LeBerm says you should get dinner with. It's quiet. It's a quiet dinner. So if you want to go, there's not a lot of talking there. Whenever it happens. Let's get to the team of the week. You already mentioned it as well. Jonathan Bond gets named to the team of the week in the goalkeeping position. I think overlooked a little bit was Kevin Cabral made the bench. So he was on the bench for this as well. And by the way, the coach who won this, Vanney Sartini for Vancouver, deserves that. That was a crazy game. Can we talk for a second about what happened while what happened in the again for the second week in a row? Everybody who basically is around the LA Galaxy won a game, but they were all losing games whenever we started the Galaxy game.
Well, that was the funny thing. And again, I'll circle back to what we talked about during our Twitter spaces at halftime yesterday. We were saying all the results are looking in the Galaxy's favor. LAFC was either tied or losing at the time. Yep. Mm-hmm. Minnesota was losing at the time. Mm-hmm. Portland was beating Vancouver, so you didn't have to worry about Vancouver, making up ground. And so we're like, hey, this is a good thing for the Galaxy because not only are they going to win, but they're going to be able to create some separation. But MLS after dark, their work was not done, and all those other teams managed to turn around. Minnesota was able to get a comeback win. Vancouver was able to get a comeback win.
Vancouver jumped into the playoffs position because RSL was idle.
Above the line.
Yep. So RSL was idle. We'll go Western Conference standings for you here real quick, and then we'll get to some of the MLS salary talk. Just want to touch on some things. But if you look at it now, Vancouver has the 7th spot. They jumped over Real Salt Lake. Real Salt Lake still has a game in hand, so they're at 29. Houston has 31 games. They're furthest along. Kansas City has 29, so if you're sort of paying attention to that. So this weekend, it's RSL RSL, I believe, in Portland, isn't it? I believe they play each other.
Sounds right.
Yeah, that's. I think we talked about that earlier today. So, huge game for both of those teams. Portland right now just 1 point in front of the LA Galaxy. You want to talk about something that could happen this weekend is the LA Galaxy, if Portland draw or lose and the Galaxy win, would jump over the Portland Timbers and be in the 4th position, which would be a home playoff game position. Well, I didn't think you would see that. Now, caution before you get too far ahead of everything. One, RSL has a game in hand. That's something to watch because they're just 3 points. Yeah, they're 3 points below the Galaxy. So they win a game, all of a sudden they're tied, and then they could, go ahead. But we'll see how that ends up going. But the other thing is the Galaxy still have to play at Seattle and at Sporting Kansas City in opposite. At SKC is first and then at Seattle. I don't think anybody is too far away in La La Land here, Eric, whenever we say that, they're probably going to lose those games. We'll see. I would expect a good fight out of it, but yeah, that's where you sit.
Yeah. So, but basically, like you were saying, 5 games ago, not even 5 weeks ago, 5 games ago, we thought the separation is too big. The Galaxy have fallen too far behind. That home playoff spot that we thought should have been the goal is gone. But now the door is open. Portland left the door open. They actually play Colorado on Saturday.
Oh, okay.
That's going to be
matchup too.
A good matchup if you're a Galaxy fan. But then, as the Galaxy go to Sporting Kansas City and Seattle, Portland will have San Jose and they'll have Real Salt Lake and then Austin to close out the season. So Portland, their games to close out the season are more favorable for them. So it's something you want to keep an eye on. But I think going away to Portland is tricky on the turf with the crowd that they have. I'm not a fan of that matchup. I'd almost rather go to Colorado than to go to Portland.
Ugh,
so if they can hop over, I'm just talking from a.
I know.
I'm just throwing it out there. But I think that's something if they can try to leapfrog and get that home game, that'd be huge, because having Portland come to Dignity Health Sports Park, that I'd feel much better about that. Again, it's almost like a no duh type of thing, but at the same time, the option is there where we thought it was gone.
Yeah. I will say this. It was funny because I think I was talking to Larry and I'm like, I can guarantee that the Galaxy will make the playoffs if they do one thing. And he's like, oh yeah, what's that? I go, win out. I go, they'll make the playoffs. In fact, they'll probably get 4th or 3rd in the Western Conference if they do that. So there's a chance still for a home play. I didn't think there was going to be a chance. I didn't think. And by the way, it's like 5 games ago the Galaxy were in 4th. It's not that long ago, and it was during that 9-game winless streak that it sort of eventually fell out. But it wasn't that long ago. The 2 wins, winning in Major League Soccer, especially in the Western Conference, really will shoot you up there. There is no separation between these teams. I mean, like nothing right now. The LA Galaxy at 1.5 points per game, Portland at 1.53, Minnesota at 1.47, Vancouver at 1.43, RSL at 1.45. Again, they have a game in hand, so they're technically by points per game in that 7th spot, but that's not how we do things. You actually have to win the games. You have to do all that. LAFC is only 3 points out of the playoff position as well. So all of these things are moving around. If anybody loses at this point, they're going to fall. So Dallas and this game coming up is extremely important. A very difficult game, super tricky. So again, just be calm with it, but this is a really huge chance for the Galaxy. We've talked about it so many times of the Galaxy beating people they're supposed to beat, right? And that hasn't happened, by the way. They did do something that there was only one other team that hadn't beat the LA Galaxy this year, and it was LAFC. And if they would have lost to Houston, then it would have just been LAFC that they didn't lose to in the Western Conference, by the way. Somebody said we're also undefeated against the Eastern Conference, which is correct as well. Those first 2 games, right? Accurate. But the LA Galaxy now basically are guaranteed through this 2021 regular season that they did not lose to Houston or LAFC. So those are the only 2 teams that they didn't lose to this year. Which, I mean, hey, if you're gonna do it, they're exercising some demons, Eric. I can feel it.
It's the little victories. If you would have said they're not going to lose to Houston, I would have easily cashed that bet and taken that in. I would have been very happy to see that. But transitioning into Dallas, or I don't know if we're going to go there yet, but it is a game that you need to be careful for because of your world famous roulette theory, because FC Dallas is coming in pretty cold as well. And every time we faced a team that is coming in cold, it seems to have gone wrong.
I will say this, that the one thing the Galaxy haven't done this year is win 3 games in a row, right? They had a 3-game losing streak, I think, at one point. They haven't had a 3-game winning streak. They had the winless streaks. They have the unbeaten streaks. There's a whole bunch of things that are sort of in there, but the one thing they haven't done is won 3 games in a row. This is huge right now whenever you look at how important it would be for the Galaxy, again, because we talked about the chances of getting 6 points from Seattle or SKC are slim. If you get 2 points for those games, you should be jumping up and down. And if you get a win in either of those games, you outpaced your points that you should have been getting. Any point you pick up is probably a good point.
There's a wise man that I once used to speak with, and he used to say you have to peak at the right time. Mm-hmm. And I think right now is the time. And if they seem to be figuring it out, those games against SKC and Seattle, yes, they're at the top of the table. But if you're playing well, if the Galaxy are creating the chances like they've been creating, they're putting away those goals, they're getting those lucky bounces, they're getting those penalty calls in the 90th minute. If those things are going your way, you almost go into those games fearless. And so, yeah, we're going in, chalking them up as losses given the breadth of the season. But it's not crazy to say if they get hot and they're peaking at the right time and they're playing well, the Galaxy has played both of those teams, SKC and Seattle. They've given them games. They haven't walked away with results, but they've looked good in both of those games. So nothing is over, so it's all there. It's all there to play for.
Hey, control your own destiny, right? Keep winning.
Yeah.
You will make the playoffs, guaranteed, 100%. You're locked in.
Don't have to scoreboard watch.
No, don't have to do anything. Just keep winning. Just keep winning. It's that simple. Let's go to the MLS salary guide. The fall guide came out. I don't know that there was any huge changes from the spring one that we saw. So we'll just sort of go over this quickly, and I once again have done my hack job of a math, sort of compilation here with my charts to tell you who spends the most at what position and all sorts of fun stuff like that. I'll tell you right now, the highest spenders in Major League Soccer are the LA Galaxy. There are a bunch of caveats to that, by the way, because they're still paying People Gonzalez, I think $850,000 to not be on the team. Now that's not a salary cap hit, but it's money that they're spending to pay him. As that goes. So you have that. The LA Galaxy are number 1 in spending there. The LA Galaxy are number 1 in defensive spending. So we know a lot of these things. I actually went through and ranked all of the teams at different things and sort of sorted them by total. So the LA Galaxy rank 1st in total spending. They are 8th in goalkeeper spending. So 8th is the most, 1 is the most, 27th is the least you spend on it, right? So the LA Galaxy are 1 in total spending, 8th in goalkeeping, 1st in defense, 15th in midfield, so very much middle of the pack for midfield. I expect that to change this offseason, actually. I expect the number to get even higher because I think Jonathan Dos Santos goes, and I think they get a bigger name in there that probably spends more money, which would really jump that up, so we'll see if that happens. And then they rank 1st in forward spending as well, and obviously Javier Chicharito is the 2nd highest paid player in the league behind Carlos Vela at LAFC. So you do all of that, and as of today, I redid the chart today. The LA Galaxy are spending the 6th most per point, right? So you spend all this money, how many points do you get, and sort of where do you rank on all this? So the LA Galaxy are spending $451,615 right now per point, and that was updated with the 45 points. They actually dropped a spot from 5th to 6th whenever I did that. So
which is a good thing. You want to be low on that list.
Yeah, and I think Toronto, Toronto is 1st in that, and Toronto is spending $770,000, almost $771,000 per point on that. So again,
that's not good.
There's a balance here that you have to look at. I think it is, let's go down to the bottom here and say, Colorado is 26th in spending per point, right? Well, they're also 27th in total spending, right? So they're, if you spend nothing and you do well, then your cost per point is really low. But the funny thing is, New England
is where I was going to point.
they have the best spending per point. They're 27th in the league, 20th overall in spending. Though they do not spend a ton of money. Whenever you look at what they have, and they're spending $169,293 per point right now, and their total payroll is 11.6, almost $11.7 million. The Galaxy at $20.3 million. I was going
to say that's just Chicharito and just the DPs alone are close to what New England's paying everybody.
Yeah, it's nuts. Again, just some interesting little stats and some things that you can sort of put in here. I mean, Dallas, by the way, has a total spend of about $11.986 million if you're looking at them. So the Galaxy have almost double the amount of spending that the Galaxy or that Dallas does. Just some interesting little numbers in here whenever you go through it. And Seattle, by the way, is also one of these teams that is like ridiculously sort of efficient in what they're doing. 24th in cost per point, 9th total though, like 9th overall in spending total. So they spend some money, but they're 6th in goalkeeping, 27th in defense. The Seattle Sounders spend less on defense than anybody else. I would like to say that these numbers are approximations, and the reason they're approximations is that sometimes guys are listed at having two different positions, Eric. And whenever they have two different positions, I have to choose one for them. And so I do it very scientifically. I could look up all like 70 or 80 or 90 people and try to figure out what it is, but I don't have that time. So whatever's listed first, usually it's like midfield, forward, or defense, midfield, or midfield, defense. Whatever's listed first, that's what I take.
Or forward, midfield, Yeah, it all pops up there. Yeah. But it gives you a general idea. And going back to the Galaxy's rankings, where the midfield is their lowest, their lowest spending out of all the positions, that makes sense. I think we've always said the midfield is the part that needs the most work. I think, you could argue, the defense spending the most on it. They're trying there. The results hasn't been there, but the money has definitely been dumped into the defense. Same thing with forward. Obviously, when you're paying the second highest person in the league, that number is going to skyrocket. But I think it also gives you a good, if you're planning for the future, you say, okay, where are we not spending money? We're not spending it in the midfield. That's where maybe we need to make a splash. That's where the impact needs to happen in order to maximize your needs. So I think, if you're going to take anything away from these salaries, it gives you an idea of where you need to go, where you, if you're spending the most on defense and the results aren't there, then that tells you something also. So not that it means too much, but it could give you some clues on where the Galaxy could be going, because we've looked in past seasons on what their spending was, and then they've probably made some adjustments to kind of keep up with the rest of the league.
Yeah, I will say that there are 34 players on the roster for the LA Galaxy, which is one of the reasons that their spending probably tips out over everybody else. The People Gonzalez, I think Augie Williams is still on there. Not a lot of money, but it's still, there's guys on the roster who are not on the roster right now, basically, and the Galaxy are paying. Logan asks, do I think it's good spending or bad spending? Well, it's, if I remember correctly, Toronto had like the highest spending team, and they were winning, an MLS Cup, and they had one of the best seasons, and they were winning a treble and stuff like that. So like, if you're going to spend that much, then you need results, that type of thing. I think the Galaxy in this position that they are in right now, they're overspending in some areas. Certainly, if you look at, there's some bad contracts that they're writing off and they're going to get rid of, and there's some things that they're going to do. If you're trying to resurrect a dying sort of franchise over the last 4 years that has been just pathetic whenever you look at what the results have been, then I think that you need to spend, and that means that means you're going to overpay for some, and you're not always going to get what you think you're going to get out of different players, and you sort of live with that. We talked about Javier Hernandez being the top paid player on the LA Galaxy. Jonathan Dos Santos is second at $2 million. So Javi has a $6 million guaranteed salary. Jonathan Dos Santos at $2 million. Kevin Cabral at $1.4 million. Lots of people will have some. There's some development money in that. For his salary at 1.4, they're like, we expect you to develop that. Sam Grandsira, almost $1 million, $938,000. Sebastian Lletget, $923,000. Ravellison at $855,000. Some people are saying, oh, Sebastian Lletget is way overpaid for what he's doing. You don't get paid for what you're doing now. You get paid what you did. That's how contracts have always worked. It just, sometimes guys outperform their contracts, sometimes they underperform. I actually think that he's, for his age and his experience and everything, that's probably not a horrible number for him, but you do expect more from him out of that. So I
think it's the way the league is structured also. Just the more veteran you are in the league, the higher your salary has to be. And so I think that, that's kind of part of it. And with his notoriety, that's kind of where he's going to land. So I obviously he's not on the other side of those contracts where, once he gets a little bit older, then that number will come down. But, based on what he was doing before and his age, I think that's he's probably at his peak right now of what his salary is going to be.
That's it.
Unless someone else, he comes in. But going back to Logan's question about is this good spending or bad spending, I think it's good spending, but it's bad value. Obviously they can get more value out of what they're spending, but I have no problem with them. You can see they were trying to address the issues, so obviously with Zlatan leaving, you need to address the issue at forward. They did that. Defense was struggling. They addressed that. They tried to fix it. Obviously the value isn't there. They could be paying, players maybe a smaller salary and the better players, but you never know how that's going to shake out. So I think I have no problem with the spending, but I think they're not getting the full value for that price tag that they have on it.
Well, somebody was saying, Javier is clearly underperforming his contract at $6 million a year. And I said, well, how much of that do you put on the field? And how much of that do you put, in his other stuff? Because in some of his other stuff, I would, is Javier's a probably $3 million player whenever you think about what he brings sort of on the field. So maybe a $3.5 million player. The guy has 13 goals in 18 games so far this year.
Yeah.
You look
what
at the
is
injury.
That worth to you?
Yeah, what is that? And what is off the field worth to you? I don't know that it's a horrible contract. It's a lot. It's $6 million, second highest paid player in the year. But if you look across the street at LAFC and what they're paying Carlos Vela, who's the highest paid player in Major League Soccer for this season, you're going to say, well, you're not getting but you were getting your money's worth out of him. So it's you have to take it all in. Just sort of this totality of what you're seeing. So I have less of a problem. There's nothing on here I sit here and say like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I think the biggest thing everybody was looking at was Nick DePuy, and making 81,000 and oh man, what is, he deserves a raise and the whole thing. It's like he was signed as a backup and now he's starting. So that contract's not going to reflect his true worth right now.
And it was also based on, these G2 signings when they go up. You look at that list on the bottom, It's all G2 call-ups. It's all going to be in that same, Daniel Aguirre, Augie Williams, Eric Lopez, Klinsmann, Carlos Harvey, Nick DePuy. They're all in that same range. Kai Koreniak, so that's just, it's kind of the price of doing business. Well, when you call those guys up, that you're not going to call a guy up and pay him $500,000. That's just not the way the structure works.
Well, and there's another important part to this that everybody needs to remember. These are not salary cap numbers. This is not how much they cost against the salary cap. Because if you look at, Julian Araujo, I want to make sure I get it, or even Efrain Alvarez at $612,000 right now, right? Julian Araujo is making $653,750. Those aren't salary cap hits. I think they're at 220 is what their salary cap hit is. So that's huge value for what you're getting for each. And listen, Efrain Alvarez, you're paying them a lot of money, but they are only costing 220 against some of these things. And so, the Galaxy are maximizing the salary budget while also maximizing the amount of money that they're able to put in the pockets of some of these players, which makes them, listen, Julian Araujo, if he's making this much money, right? If he's going to make that much money, does he need to go to Europe next season? Is he happy to stay another season? Would you? And if you're the LA Galaxy, do you want that to happen? I'll tell you right now, if you look at the drop-off between whatever you're going to get, if you sell Julian Araujo and whatever comes in, there's going to be a drop-off. There's no way you're going to match like for like. And so there's something to be said about how you do this and how you structure it. And eSuper says, put some of that money to improve the scouting mechanism and infrastructure. Listen, AEG has plenty of money. If they don't want to spend it on the scouting structure, that's up to them. But they're going to maximize what they're going to do on the field. Again, this is a salary cap compliant team at these numbers. But
to eSuper's point, if you spend more money on the scouting mechanism, then you'll spend less money on your salary because you're going to be able to find, potentially find those diamonds in the rough type players, those those players who are maybe not in
you
front
will
of
find
mine.
more value. Maybe.
Correct.
Maybe you will find more value. Maybe.
So you put more money in that bucket to save money in the other bucket. So
it's the LA Galaxy are still going to spend their maximum amount of it's paying Sebastian Lletget almost $1 million. That's fine. If you get somebody else who's going to replace Sebastian Lletget, you're still going to pay whoever comes in for him at $1 million. You would just hope that there would be more value with that, which means he would be a better player. That's what you're looking at. The Galaxy are still going to spend this amount of money because they're one of the big teams.
And to that point, I think it's something that gets brought up a lot when you talk about the NBA with the Lakers and with the Dodgers. When you're consistently on the top spenders in the league, that also makes you a desirable location because a player knows if I go to this team, they're going to take care of me, they're going to pay me well. Maybe they'll overpay me, but the type of players the type of players that you're going to get a player who's going to be hungry, who's going to want to, make that money. You're going to have that player with the edge and that, selfish piece that we were talking about. They're going to want to come to your team because they know that you're going to spend. And so that could be a good thing, almost like a recruiting tool in a way.
I want to make it clear, though, that there is no restriction on the LA Galaxy spending on scouting. There's nothing that tells them they can't spend as much money. If they wanted to spend bucket. If they wanted to spend $100 million on scouting, they could spend $100 million on scouting, right? And that's up to AEG and that's up to Uncle Phil and how they want to do that and how they want to spend that money, right? But I don't think the on-the-field budget affects the off-the-field budget for the LA Galaxy. It might at some other teams, but not for AEG. We keep seeing the list that's circulating around. Phil Anschutz is the 6th or 7th richest owner in all of football. That owns the LA Galaxy, right? So, you could, obviously that list came out because of Newcastle United and their new owners and why they're number one and everybody else that's sort of in that. But Phil Anschutz is a very rich guy. There's no reason that AEG can't put more money. And I'll tell you right now, I think they failed to do that over this entire time since Bruce Arena left. They have failed to invest in that scouting infrastructure. So,
and that's been the biggest issue, and we've talked about it with when Dennis Ticlosis come on. Is this region that you should be able to find the talent and to be able to scout here, and it just seems like for some reason it hasn't turned out. We haven't cranked out those products like you would have imagined, right, given the Southern California area.
All right, just checking real quick, by the way. I went through and listed the top 100 most expensive players in Major League Soccer, and then I sort of tried to figure out, how many of them were on each team and blah, 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 the whole deal. The LA Galaxy have five top 100 players in terms of how much they're getting paid on the guaranteed salary. They have number 2 in Javier Hernandez, number 27 in Jonathan Dos Santos, number 42 in Kevin Cabral, number 87 in Samuel Grandsir, and number 89 in Sebastian Lletget. So that's how they sort of figure out. Toronto has 6. Sporting Kansas City has 6 players in the top 100. It's really interesting, by the way. I should go and cut all these out just so that way everybody can sort of see the distributions on some of these are one team has 4, but they're all 60 or higher. So I thought some of that was really interesting. Nashville has 6. 6 of the top 100 players play for Nashville. 37, 47, 67, 77. I don't make this up. It's like they were trying to do it.
I was going to say, bingo.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
I think I filled my card, yeah.
37, 47, 67, 77, 82nd, and 99. Those are their 6th, right? So you look at the distribution there. Now, as you would imagine, as you get closer to 1, the dollar amounts really skew up, right? There's this exponential growth that sort of escalates towards the end. So if you're outside of the top 20 on those, this isn't, you can do this, you can amass more. LAFC has 4, only 4 on there. The LA Galaxy, as we said, have 5. I'm trying to think of somebody else. New York Red Bulls only have 2, and they're 60 and 88, right? I mean, it's just Houston.
But compared to their whole spending,
right. Well, it kind of surprises me that Houston has 4, 45, 50, 56, and 62, right? This little clump, right in the center of the thing, and that's sort of how it goes out. So anyway, Toronto has 6, Sporting Kansas City has 6, Portland has 5, Nashville is 6, the Dallas, by the way, Un 1. As in 1. I didn't see how far it was down the list, but it was 1. Yeah.
Well, anyone that gets paid, goes to Europe. Check Roma, check Venice. See where those guys are getting paid, because they're not getting paid at FC Dallas. That's for sure.
Colorado with 2, by the way. So just sort of interesting little tidbits that I was able to pull. Let's get you ready for FC Dallas, because this game is an important one. The best chance the LA Galaxy have at getting 9 points out of 8 days, and also gets them and allows them to sort of, get ready for the next big breathe in that they're going to have to do, going at Sporting Kansas City, going at Seattle. So those are going to be big games that you're going to want to take and really focus in on. And so that's what's sort of coming up here for the LA Galaxy. So again, a 7 p.m. kickoff time. This game will kick off exactly at 7:08 p.m. It's on Unamas and TUDN. So that's where you can find it. Usually those games can be found on Twitter whenever they go put out as well. So if you can't watch it, you can watch it on Twitter, and that's usually in English. So you can check that out for all my non-Spanish speakers. This series is... Yeah, go ahead.
Bit of a pro tip also, for those of you who may get frustrated, I don't want to watch a game on Twitter. If have a smart TV or an Apple TV, screencasting it, flick it on there.
Yep.
That's the way to go. That's the pro move. If you haven't, if you feel like you need to be locked to a laptop or a smartphone, try casting it. That's my recommendation if you haven't thought of that yet.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting one. All right, so that's sort of where we sit on that. I wanted to say the series is a long one. These are two original teams, 39 wins for the LA Galaxy, 34 wins for FC Dallas, 12 draws, only 12 draws in all of those games, Eric, which means that you're probably going to get a result out of this one, right?
Yeah, it's kind of weird, the history of this. But for some reason, the history always holds. There's certain teams that, the Galaxy struggle against, and it doesn't matter what season it is or how good they are. Just historically, for some reason, it pans out. And so when you say that, there hasn't been a lot of draws with these teams. For some reason, that holds. And so when you look back even to the Dallas Burn days before FC Dallas, remember a lot of shootouts, high scoring games there. So yeah, when these two teams meet up, it always gets interesting.
It's there's a lot of games going on this weekend. A lot of MLS games, a lot of games around the world as well. Everybody's sort of getting back into things as it goes. I was trying to look and sort of see what it looks like in terms of the home team winning games, and the home team does win a lot of these games, but you can certainly go back to 2016 and 2017 where the Galaxy weren't winners. Drew in 2016, lost in 2017, not necessarily a big surprise. FC Dallas at home, LA Galaxy lost 3-2 in 2018. So there's there's a real sort of rivalry that goes on with these, but it's, again, I think you hit it best, is that there are some teams that just don't go well together, that are always weird games, and Dallas has always been one of those teams. Now, Ricardo Pepi, the guy who everybody in the U.S. men's national team camp needs to thank the LA Galaxy for allowing Pepi to score a hat trick against the LA Galaxy early this year when FC Dallas won 4-0. He did not play in this game against LAFC, and the official reason is that he had a cut, and I don't know exactly where, but it was a cut that required stitches. It was something he suffered whenever he was with the U.S. men's national team, and so they were waiting for that to heal before he would get back out there. Now, the other thing that certainly is happening is that there are rumors out there that Pepi told FC Dallas he wants out. And so
Correct.
That could also be a thing. And I know, Eric, you and I were texting sort of beforehand, and you're like, your theory or your possible conspiracy
my possible theory, and I saw it in the chat as well. Obviously, the official word is injury, and it could very well be an injury. But we also know if this were a playoff race, or if there were an important matchup, for the U.S. national team, maybe it gets bandaged and maybe he goes in. But with scouts coming around, there's been interest from Europe. Word of either I think. Dortmund was a team that was sniffing around. Ajax is another team that was sniffing around. So if he's already requested the trade, there are wheels in motion for him to end up in Europe this winter.
Right.
Yeah. Why are you going to play a game where you're already eliminated and risk further injury? So even if it is quote unquote healed and ready to go, maybe it is still hurting. Maybe it's still bugging me. Maybe I don't need to play in this game. And so I think, it's a conspiracy theory. No one's ever going to come out and say that's exactly what's happening. But I wouldn't be surprised if Pepi didn't play in this game, if he didn't travel to LA, because one, maybe the injury's not quite ready yet. And then the other part of it, there's, heavy interest in Europe, and he's probably not going to be, I wouldn't even say probably, he's definitely not going to be with FC Dallas, in the next couple months. So I think it behooves him best not to play and not to risk further injury.
Yeah, especially getting some time with the U.S. men's national team can allow him to get those that work permit overseas as well. The LA Galaxy 13-11-6, Dallas 6-14-10, just 28 points on the road. Dallas is 2-10-3, just 9 points on the road all year. That's usually the sign of death whenever you think about that for the LA Galaxy trying to win a game. The Galaxy 5th in the Western Conference, 9th in the Sports Show. By the way, your LA Galaxy, once again, said it on Monday, it was true. It's even more true today. The LA Galaxy are a top 10 team in Major League Soccer right now. So as bad as you want to say the season is and all those things, as it stands right now, 9th in the Supporters' Shield. A top 10 team in Major League Soccer after finishing very near the dang bottom of the entire league last year in 2020, shortened season, a whole bunch of stuff. Who knows if the wooden spoon would have come around if there were 34 games in that season, because it was not getting better. But however you look at that, you have to think that currently that's a very big improvement. We talked about FC Dallas 12th in the Western Conference and 24th in the Supporters Shield, and they have that nice little E next to them, which tells you they have been eliminated from playoff contention this year. So no playoffs for them. That happened after the last game. That happened after a heartbreak game. They lost 3-2 to LAFC. Again, little come from behind game. We sort of talked about it a little bit. For me, looking at this FC Dallas team, they certainly have some technical ability in tight spaces. They were able to unlock LAFC. They did not play over the weekend, which I think is super, super important when you're looking at all this. They're on game 2 of 2 this week and not game 3 of 3. Yes, they're traveling, but that's going to give them maybe a little bit more energy in this game than maybe they had.
Or maybe not, because they've been eliminated. Because we saw it with Houston. There was a little fight in there, but they're also when they got that adversity, they folded. It's like a bit of a house of cards. So once you poke it on the right spot, it all comes tumbling down. So I see what you're saying, but at the same time, without their peppy train riding into town, being eliminated from the playoffs, I could see them just not getting up for this game and just kind of being lackadaisical and going through the motion. And then the Galaxy, who's hot, feeling themselves, they can run away with it.
Yeah, this is all very interesting in terms of, the tricky game I thought was the Houston game. This game also is a little tricky just in terms, but if the Galaxy approach this with the same sort of energy that they had in the Houston game in that first half, then they can put this game away and do the same thing to Dallas that they did to Houston, right?
Yeah, and I think they will. And based on even during the winless streak, we saw them attacking and pushing hard in those first halves and creating chances. I think those are going to be the directions from Greg Vanney, is to go out and be aggressive and score early and score often and put it out of reach. That way you don't have to worry about it and you can move on. And so, hopefully we see another Adam Saldana victory cigar. Once he comes on the field, that the game is iced. So I think that's the thing you want to look for. Get those goals early. Rest your guys, because it's the third week. Get some of those younger guys that experience down the stretch. I think that's the goal.
Yeah, their defense has not been good, by the way. They've given up 50 goals so far this year, so worse than the LA Galaxy's defense. Movement will absolutely unsettle them. You could see it in the LAFC game. If you're quick and decisive with your movement, you can unlock this defense. That midfield is not what it should be, and a lot of teams are able to run right up the gut on this. I'll say this, that FC Dallas itself plays similar a little bit to the LA Galaxy in terms of they like to play outside on the wings, and they like to move the ball from outside on the wings in behind for their strikers. So expect a lot of balls being played sort of from that middle position on the outside to curling searching balls in behind against the defense. So when you're looking at guys like Derek Williams and Nick DePuy, it's going to be incumbent on them to watch for those balls and to drop in whenever those happens. That way they can cut those out before they become dangerous. And if they do get in back behind, they can't get beat straight down the gut and down the middle. And it looks like FC Dallas really tries to beat you up the middle once they work the ball from the outsides, which is, it's again, they can beat you in different ways. And you saw it. They beat the Galaxy 4-0. If Dallas scores the first goal, do you see the Galaxy coming back? We haven't seen that in this Galaxy team basically all year, but that could happen if it's something fluky. The Galaxy need to be tough enough to understand Dallas is not strong enough to withstand their pressure, and they showed it whenever they lost to LAFC.
Yeah, I think you saw a little bit of it with Portland. When Portland tied, you did see a reaction from the Galaxy to push more forward and to get that winning goal. So if Dallas scores first, I think it's something that the Galaxy, we'll see if they can do it, but I think they do have the ability to come back and come from behind and handle their business. And so I know we were preemptively celebrating a little bit, but there's some talent on that team as well. When you look at Ferreira, you look at Jara, those are decent goal scorers, and they've had their moments during this season as well. I think FC Dallas is coming in. They're also 8 games winless coming into this one. Their last win was that 5-3 barn burner at Austin. Yeah. And so they had the ability to score goals, and just they've gone on a bit of a cold streak. So don't sleep on them. I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat saying Dallas will want to be spoiler, and that happens a lot with these teams. Also, sometimes these teams come in, they have nothing to play for, but if they know they're going to mess up your day, maybe that's what they use to get fired up for it.
winless in their last 8, 1 win in their last 12 games. The last time they met, obviously the Galaxy lost 4-0. Since then, they won at SKC 2-1, and then they won versus Austin twice. So those are their wins that they've had, is 2 wins against Austin in that time. So again, not exactly a highlight reel of victories. Although the Galaxy didn't beat Austin in Austin.
Yeah.
So
that's a funny thing too. You look at their form guide, or they're in the standings. Dallas only has 6 wins, and just to think that to only have 6 wins, 2 are against Austin, and 1 of those is against the Galaxy. It's a bit of a red mark on the Galaxy there.
2-10
so
and 3.
The Galaxy should get up for this, for vengeance for that, just to make things right.
Yeah, 0-4-1 in their last 5 games for FC Dallas. All right, what does 538 say?
538 has the Galaxy with a 53% chance to win. So heavy favorites. And the FC Dallas only a 23% chance to win, and then a 24% chance for a tie. So it's the third highest winning percentage expectation of the slate for the weekend. So 538 believes in the Galaxy. They were right against Portland. They were right against Houston, I believe. So we'll see if they're right again.
E-Super asking, by the way, Victor Vasquez dealing with a little bit of an injury issue. I don't remember exactly what it was, but there was some tightness or some tenderness in some body part, limb, extremity, however it was. And so it was good that they got to rest, but he was available and could come in. So you expect that Victor Vasquez will be healed enough to play this weekend. Whether he starts, we'll see. Could be a repeat of Sebastian Lletget, just depending on how they're actually looking at that. The other thing is Vieira still working himself back. Last we talked to Greg about that. Basically he said there's a bone bruise still in there. He's still working back. If he can manage the pain, he can play. But right now that hasn't been the case, and I don't think they're in any rush to sort of get them back. So that's sort of where I see this LA Galaxy team. Other than that, I didn't hear of any other injuries. I don't know of any other absences for this game that's coming up as well. So I think that for the most part, the Galaxy will have who they want, where they want, and I think that Greg Vanney has rotated and rested his players to give himself what he wants as sort of his A lineup, or at least the lineup that he thinks can beat FC Dallas, because maybe those are two different things. Certainly looking into still a busy time of the year, to sort of close things out. And again, undefeated so far in October. Important to say, just because the Galaxy have not been in that position in a very long time. But if you're going to be undefeated in a month that has 5 games in it, October sounds like a great month to sort of keep running that through. So we'll see if the Galaxy can get back FC Dallas. Again, a 7:08 p.m. kickoff time, TUDN Unamas. And of course, this should be on Twitter as well. So that's what I have. Any closing thoughts on this game, Eric?
No, I think 9 points in 8 days. I think that's something that we've always talked about. The last day, the third game being where the wheels fall off. I think this is an opportunity for the Galaxy to show that they're moving and trending in the right direction, peaking at the right time. The points are there for the taking, and I look forward to seeing the Galaxy take those points.
It'll be what's your score prediction?
My score prediction: I have 3-1 LA Galaxy. I think they let one in, because FC Dallas is going to scare them a little bit, but I think they'll get it done early and often. Yeah,
such a huge chance for the LA Galaxy to possibly jump into 4th place. All of the motivational factors have to be there for them. They talk about being finals and all that sort of fun stuff. It's not. It's just that, again, we've talked about must-win games and games that you are just really important. This is just such a monumentally big game now that you have a chance to get 9 points out of these 3 games in this week, knowing you're going away to SKC, knowing you're going away to Seattle, and then, there's going to be a lot. I think almost regardless of what happens, unless the Galaxy somehow run the table against SKC and Seattle, there's going to be a lot of emphasis placed on the last game against Minnesota. So, the doing your job here without looking ahead is just such a little dance you're going to have to do, right? You need to be motivated. You need to understand, but you need to understand you're better than FC Dallas and that you can play better than them. This isn't an arrogance thing. It's a confidence thing. And I think the Galaxy are dealing in confidence right now. I don't think that there's any issue with that.
It's such a slight tweak than I think what happened in Austin. I think in Austin, they went in there knowing that they were better than Austin and they got let down. So it's just like you said, it's the difference between arrogance and confidence. Arrogance will make you lose to the last place team. Confidence will help you beat those last place teams. So it's just a slight tweak, of mentality, knowing in there that you're better than them, but still doing your job. That's the big difference, as opposed to thinking you're better than them and then taking the foot off the gas, which is, I don't think that's what this team is feeling right now.
Yeah, I'm going to say 2-0 win for the LA Galaxy. I think that the defense is finally coming into the form I expected them to have. So, back-to-back clean sheets. Again, the confidence level that would sort of induce would be very good. There's zero reason why the LA Galaxy should lose this game. There's zero reason why the LA Galaxy should draw this game. There really is. I mean, there's no excuses. Having said that, it wouldn't surprise me if either of those things happen. But there's no excuse for it.
The more we say it, the more we guarantee it, the more it points in the right direction, the less and less I like it.
Yeah.
It's the way the Galaxy goes sometimes.
Hey,
the pessimist in us.
I would just like to say I've said it on multiple podcasts whenever we had 6 games left, and I said, would it surprise you if the LA Galaxy won all 6 games? And everybody's like, oh yeah, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. Yeah, the Galaxy are perfectly capable of doing that.
I thought you were wrong, but here I am hyping myself up against SKC in Seattle, saying these are winnable games. They've played them well.
If they beat Dallas, they'll be halfway to that. So that's just keep that in mind. Again, Galaxy have the game against FC Dallas, 7:08 p.m. kickoff time. Hopefully we'll see everybody there. I know the Galaxy are trying to press for it. Only 15,000 plus at the game last Saturday. This is another Saturday night. Hopefully there is less interference from other sports around, and we'll see if that actually holds true or not. But hopefully you get out there and enjoy these almost playoff atmosphere type games that are being played right now.
Yeah, if you're looking at this from a different perspective, here's my sales pitch. There's only a potential of only 2 more Galaxy home games left, and so if you're counting your wishes and saying how much time do I have, this may be one of your last opportunities to see the Galaxy win a game at home. Maybe things are iced by that Minnesota game at the end on decision day, and maybe they don't need to go all out, and you don't need to worry about it. So this is an opportunity if you want to see the Galaxy handle their business. This is one of those. Kind of last chance, especially if Portland doesn't cooperate and gets that home playoff spot. One of your last opportunities to see the Galaxy this season at home.
Very, very good. All right, I think that wraps up the show. Eric, anything else? You good?
I'm good. Ready to roll.
Tell people where they can find you. Let's go.
All right. As always, you can find me on Twitter at HammerEV. You could also find me on Instagram at Galaxy Profile. That's Galaxy PROFOUL.
All right, if you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at Guesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcast. Head on over, cornerofthegalaxy.com, our YouTube channel. Go ahead, subscribe, rate, review, do all those fun things that you could do for the podcast, whether it's on YouTube or anywhere else. Sign up, subscribe, tell your friends, do all that fun stuff. LA Galaxy closing in on a playoff spot. Hopefully, some good news on this Saturday as they can possibly get past FC Dallas. All right, for Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening, you've been watching to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.